Have you ever wondered how some creators are so prolific? Daily tweets, newsletters, YouTube videos, LinkedIn posts, digital products, and yet they still have time for their creativity walks. Meanwhile, the rest of us struggle to keep up with the constant demand for the next post. It's almost as if they have more time in the day. Are they really that good, or is it something else? Over the last year, I've been trying to figure out what allows these creators to crank out the goods week after week. After months of research and hundreds of dollars spent on courses, I've come to learn something. It's not that these creators are somehow special or better than anyone else. What allows them to be so prolific is something anyone can learn to do themselves. Their secret sauce is their systems. What's up everyone, I'm Zach Rollins, and in today's video I'm going to break down why systems matter for creators and how you can systemize your process using the IRIS framework. It's the exact 4-step framework I've used to develop my own systems that allow me to create a weekly newsletter and YouTube videos while working a full-time job. I can confidently say it's worth it to spend a little time today to save hundreds of hours and dollars spent on courses tomorrow. I'll explain with a short story. At some point last year, I went through a bit of a health kick. I had recently taken a break from drinking and wanted to shed a few pounds in time for summer. As complicated as weight loss may seem, it's actually really simple. Consume fewer calories than you're burning. The problem is counting calories is a nightmare. Nobody wants to scan QR codes and track 10 different ingredients every time they eat. That nuisance was holding me back from results, so I simplified things. I started eating chicken and rice every day. This let me calculate the calories for chicken and rice one time instead of multiple different meals every day. It was an instant time saver. But even with this hack, cooking meals was taking forever. It was a 30-minute ordeal every time I wanted to eat, and nobody has time for that. So I took it one step further and started meal prepping. Instead of cooking on a meal per meal basis, I started batch cooking enough chicken and rice for a week at a time. I went from 7 hours of cooking a week down to 30 minutes. That's 30 hours a month freed up to put toward my other goals. The summer bod system became an instant success, at least for a few weeks. Don't worry, I'm not about to sell you a weight loss program. Systemizing your process streamlines decision making and creates more time during the day as you optimize it. I streamlined my decision making and saved time by simplifying my food choices. Having a system also creates a baseline from which you can improve and make adjustments along the way. Without that baseline, you would go through cycles of the process without any objective measure of what you can improve for the next time. When I realized I was spending 7 hours a week cooking, I had an objective metric I could optimize by switching to meal prepping. So, what is a system? A system is a collection of processes that carry you to a desired outcome. When I desired to lose weight, my system was to eat fewer calories, meal prep, and reduce my available food choices. As creators, we have systems for everything whether we realize it or not. A system for ideation, a system for writing, a system for scheduling, a system for learning, a system for editing, and collectively, these systems form our content system. The reason successful creators can pump out high volumes of quality work is that they form highly efficient systems over time. It allows them to standardize quality, streamline their decision making, and reduce the time spent creating content. The problem is we can't optimize our system if we don't have a standard for them. That's why I want to share with you the IRIS framework that I use to create my system so you can accurately assess and optimize them to your needs. So what is the IRIS framework? It's a 4-step process. Identify, review, iterate, and study. So step 1, identify. The first part of the IRIS framework involves identifying the system's goals. The more specific the goal, the more optimized the system will become for that goal. If your goal is to gain followers, your system will look a lot different than someone who wants to increase the sales of their course. Without identifying the system's goal, you'll be unable to improve because you won't know what you're improving toward. My system for weight loss had 2 goals: lose weight, be time efficient. That's what allowed me to optimize for time by eating chicken and rice. But if the goal were to lose weight and be happy, then maybe a cheat day would have been included. The system's goal is the razor that determines what makes the cut. Step 2, review. The second part of the IRIS framework is to review and document your current collection of processes. This is where you write out all the steps and procedures you currently perform, even if your system's only one step. When I started creating content, my goal was to grow a following, and my process was to write for 30 minutes every day. That's it. It was a very crude and basic system. I didn't have a process for writing hooks, storytelling, calls to action, or anything to encourage people to follow. This step of reviewing and documenting made it clear that I didn't actually have a system in place to gain more followers. I was just writing and praying it would magically accomplish my goals. But again, you can't make improvements until you review your process and document exactly what's going into it. If you never spend a little time today to review your process, you'll waste thousands of hours guessing your way through your system when you could have been improving. Take the time to clearly define your current system and pinpoint the bottleneck preventing you from reaching the system's goal, which brings us to our next step. Step 3. Iteration. Once you've identified the system's goal, reviewed your current process, and pinpointed a possible bottleneck, it's time to iterate. This is where you create hypotheses about plausible ways to improve the system toward its goals. You might think to yourself, maybe starting the piece with a thought-provoking question will help hook the audience and lead to more followers. Document the hypothesis and add it to your system. I remember one time I decided to try using better storytelling in my content to see if I could get more engagement. So I did some research and learned about the hero's journey. I used the hero's journey format exactly as taught for my next piece of content. And the first comment I got was telling. It was something like this. Wow, the storytelling in this is amazing. I feel like I can relate to this so much. Thanks for sharing. I couldn't believe it. It actually worked. The experiment led to more engagement, bringing me closer to the system's goal. And this brings us to the last step of the IRIS framework, which is step 4, to study. Study the results of your hypothesis. Did it move the needle toward the goal or away from the goal? Again, this is why it's so crucial to understand what you're optimizing for. If you don't know the goal, you can't judge whether something is good or bad for your system. I'll give you a really obvious example real quick. Say your goal is to produce as much content as possible within 1 hour a day. If your only goal is volume, then your system will eventually optimize to allow you to just use ChatGPT to write and create everything for you. But if you also want to build credibility, trust, and a reputation within a niche, your system will optimize towards those values instead. Being seen as a credible thought leader requires producing original thought pieces. So instead of having ChatGPT write the content for you, you might optimize your system for time by creating templates to streamline the process. You might use tools like voice transcription to talk out your writing while driving to work and have ChatGPT do the editing for you. With each iteration of the process, you study the results and document what's bringing you closer to the system's goal. At the end of the day, systems are feedback loops. The IRIS framework is a feedback loop you can use to refine your processes. Identify goals and change them as needed. Review your current process with documentation and seek out bottlenecks. Iterate and experiment with new methods to make improvements. Study the results to determine whether the system is optimizing toward the goal or away. Repeat and let time compound with results. Eventually, you'll have documented systems for every part of the creative process. Not only will it save you hundreds of hours, but it'll also form the foundation for digital products, offers, and content ideas you can share with others. That's it for today. Like and subscribe if you liked the video. Take care, guys.